In the 5th verse of this week's Torah reading called Shmot, the very first sidra in the book of Exodus, we find in that verse, in the 5th verse, there arose a new king in Egypt who did not know. We wonder, what does it mean, did not know? It could mean just simply he was uneducated, had no idea of the past of his country, the heroism of a certain individual who saved his country from certain failure. But that's kind of doubtful. Why would such a pharaoh, king of the greatest nation in the world, be so utterly ignorant? Certainly his viziers, his courtiers, would have made him aware of the fact, even if he did not know it, that Joseph saved the Egyptian culture from utter decimation during a period of drought. Rather, what it probably means is that Pharaoh chose not to know the Israelite nation. If we trace back the word know all the way back to the beginning chapters of Genesis, we remember that Adam knew Eve. And we usually interpret that to mean that he knew her in a sexual way. But that's probably shortchanging what it really means in the Torah. What it really, its essence is all about, is that Adam understood Eve. He wanted to understand her. He chose to understand her on the deepest, most emotional level. Her loves, her wants, her desires, what hurt her, what she needed. And she in turn knew Adam. In turn, she desired to know what made him cry, what made him weep with joy, and what made him cringe, and what made him ultimately fulfilled as a human being. They knew each other means that they wanted to understand emotionally on the deepest level what made the other tick. Now we extrapolate to the book of Exodus where we're reading today, where Pharaoh chose not to know the Jewish people, takes on a whole new shade. What it really means is that Pharaoh did not want to know of the hopes and the aspirations and the dreams of this people. He wanted to ignore them totally. He wanted to make sure that he was utterly closed his heart, which is a phrase that we're going to read not so many weeks from now. His heart was cold, secured against any kind of emotional attachment to the Jewish people. And there's another aspect to this reading that is worthy of note as well, that in the very first chapter, in the very first verse of this week's Torah reading, it says, Joseph and his progeny, the children of Jacob, came to Egypt. But the Hebrew does not actually put it in the past tense. The Hebrew is in the present tense. Joseph and Jacob and all of the progeny that came from them, all the Israelite nation, are coming to Egypt. Is it a mistake? Probably not. What it means to tell is that what happened, happens. What has occurred, occurs again, and will continue to recur for as long as we do not learn the lessons of the past. That as long as we try to become invisible in the culture in which we live, as long as we try to totally assimilate ourselves so that we are invisible to ourselves, to our comrades, and to everybody else, as a distinct Jewish nation, we lose our identity. And living in this certain subclass that we've created for ourselves, we doom ourselves to become less than we could otherwise be. I think the lessons of this Torah reading are permanent, powerful, and very compelling. Try to maintain a grip on your singular, soulful, and holy identity. And at the same time, be aware that there are people who are emotionally detached from us, that don't really care about whether we succeed or lose, and therefore to pin our hopes on them instead of pinning them on ourselves in trying to become the maximum that we can be, God's covenanted people. Until we reach that stage, we will not truly become who we are destined to be. Shabbat Shalom.